Well, welcome to Pastor Doug's midweek VIP Bible study. Pastor Tall Doug here with Pastor Jim, and we're thrilled that you're joining us. Pastor Doug's schedule is, as seems to be more and more the case lately, it's slammed. So he's asked us to try this for him again today.
He seems to think we don't have anything else to do. I get that impression sometimes, Doug.
I think so. I guess that's reality. When you're the boss,
Yeah, right,
you
right.
just kind of
Okay.
direct,
We'll honor
and
him with
we
that.
do,
Yeah,
we do,
yeah.
and we've become very accustomed to this new term of being voluntold,
Right,
and
right.
we resemble that. So here we are, doing the best we can. Hey, Sunday's sermon by Pastor Doug was titled "Surprised by Hope." And there's a lot of ground that he covered, and we can talk about a few things. But Pastor Jim is going to start with reading a verse to us out of the Gospel of John.
Well, in the Pastor Doug's message, he used the amplified version of John 3:16, and I know that's a little unusual and maybe a little strange for some people. So I just want to say it the way we're most familiar with it, perhaps in the NIV. And what this verse tells us is that God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Think about that. Think about what that means, that God loved the world so much. When we see this world and it seems so crazy and out of control,
Mhm.
and yet God still loved it that much that he gave his only son.
Hard,
Amazing.
hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
As Pastor said on Sunday, imagine those of us who have a son uh, giving up your son. It just, we can't do it. It's just not in our human ability. There's something, Pastor, I like to share that we've talked a lot in the men's group. Of course, we don't change the Bible at all. We don't add to or subtract. Who would we be to change God's word? But I like to personalize this verse in particular. And when it says, "For God so loved the world," well, we are the world.
Yeah.
So I think it's appropriate if we think of it in terms of, "For God so loved me,
Mm.
He gave up His one and only Son for me." Now, that's not in any kind of prideful or arrogant way, like I'm so
Right.
great,
Right.
but that's just His view of us and how much we mean to Him.
Right.
And the world we can think of, I think of as maybe almost in third person. It's kind of, it's out there. It's the
Yeah.
world. Okay, well, He's still a great God.
Yeah.
But when I put it in those terms of He loved me that
Yeah.
much, it's very, well, it's frankly, it's convicting. It's overwhelming, but it makes me think about it in different terms. Like how can I live my life not following Him when He did this for
Mm.
me?
When you travel around, and Ann and I never did a lot of traveling. We've barely been outside of this country, but there are so many
Mhm.
things that you see when you travel around, and you know just how beautiful the world is.
Oh yeah.
And you wonder, why is it so beautiful? Why does it look so pretty? Why do we gasp sometimes in awe when we see something? God made it this way for himself, but he also made it beautiful for us
Mhm.
to appreciate. And even though God gave his life for us, for human beings, just like you were alluding to, he also loves this creation. It's his. He could have created it any way he wanted to, but he made it beautiful, not only for his appreciation, but also for ours.
Sure. Yeah. And Sunday, Pastor gave us some perspective on just how big our God truly is. So we think about, our planet Earth and how big it is compared to us puny little human beings. And then on the big screen, he had a comparison of our Earth
That was
to
awesome.
the sun,
Yeah.
and our sun to some larger suns that
Right.
dwarf our sun.
Yeah.
But we can see our sun plainly, and it's 93 million miles away. Now,
Yeah.
there's another star named Betelgeuse. That's not the correct pronunciation. It's actually a French word, but Betelgeuse is as close as I can get.
I like that.
And if that star was in the location of our current star, it would extend beyond the orbit of Mars. Think about that. That's how big some of this universe is, and there are stars bigger than that.
Right.
So when we think about
Millions
our problems being so big, like we don't know what to do, and we look at the size of this universe and think about God created this, not with some machine or something even bigger, but just by his thoughts and words.
Yeah. Spoke it into existence.
Then our God can handle our problems if we'll just be smart enough to rely on him.
So the point is, how big is God? If the universe is that big and the creation is that large and that huge, how big is God that he can be the creator of all of it? It's just unimaginable.
It truly is. It truly is. And if he's everywhere, which we believe he is, that means he's everywhere, not just here, but throughout the universe. Bigger than the universe. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that it's the Christmas season, and we know about Santa Claus's list about naughty and nice, perhaps we have a new perspective about God's view of our behavior and whether we're being naughty or nice. Thankfully, we have forgiveness for our naughtiness at times.
That's right.
If we can move on, Pastor, another verse on Sunday's sermon out of the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and shows its true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you can become mature and well developed, not deficient in any way. Now, I'm going to set up Pastor Jim here, and I'm going to say, what does that mean to you? But before he can answer, because he knows where I'm going with this, I recently learned from a pastor that that's the worst question you can ask in a Bible study setting. And the point is, who cares what we think? I mean, our personal feelings. The point of this is what does that verse truly mean? What does God mean by that verse? What was the intent of the original authors of the verse? And for that matter, the intent of the entire Bible. So we can't say, well, what does that mean to you, Jim? And God forbid we throw that out there and be wrong and mislead somebody with what we think is the correct interpretation. So what's a better way to ask that question?
Well, the better way would be to say, what did God mean with these words? What does the Bible, from God's perspective, truly mean? What's the meaning from his perspective? It's hard for us to think of the tests and the trials and the challenges that we have in this life. It's hard for us to think of them as a gift. They don't seem like a gift when we're in the midst of them, that's for sure.
Sir.
But God asks us, actually, he asks us to consider it a sheer gift when we have those challenges. Because why? Because they make us grow in our faith. They make us more dependent on him instead of our own strength and abilities. And that's the reason why we're tested. All of life is a test in some way, shape, or form. And how we come out of that and how we deal with it is really the important issue.
Mhm. Forgive my looking off to the side here for a second, but as I read this one, this is from the Message translation, which I'm
Right.
not that familiar with, and I've never really heard it described as a sheer gift. So I quickly pulled up
Sheer
on
joy.
my phone here exactly.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
NIV, it says, "Consider it pure joy
Pure joy.
when you face trials of
Right.
many kinds." And as Pastor Jim said, it's hard to put it in that perspective. How can I be joyful over the suffering of myself, my family,
Right.
and everybody for that matter? It's a whole different perspective,
Yeah.
and something that if we can have that focus, if we can have that attitude where we recognize that there's something good that's going to come out of this,
Exactly.
then we go through um, the experience with the joy that the rest of the world can't understand.
Yeah.
They think there's something wrong with us.
Right.
Like our power verse says, and may the peace of God that transcends all understanding
Right.
guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Well, we can go through these sufferings not happy, of course, but
Right.
peaceful and with joy.
Mm.
And the rest of the world just shakes their head and they're
Yeah.
mad and angry and looking for someone to blame and excuse. And frankly, it's led to this whole victim
Hmm.
mentality that it seems to be pervasive,
Yeah.
where we have a different attitude. We don't like it, but we understand there's a reason for it. And we may never know the reason until we get to heaven someday.
Yeah.
But we trust God and we accept it for now.
One of the things we've every one of us has been through a trial or through a period in our life when we just felt as though we couldn't make it, that we were not going to get through this. Maybe it was a death of a family member, or it was the loss of a job, or whatever the case might be, whatever the problem may have been. As Christians, we know that God has made us, created us in such a way that we can't deal with these things on our own. We don't have the strength and ability, as much as we'd like to think we do. We don't have the strength and ability to get through difficult challenges. That's why we rely on God.
Mm-hmm.
His power and His strength gives us the ability to get through things that we think we could never be able to get through.
Indeed. And as you said, we've all been through it. And as Pastor often teaches, we either just got through a crisis,
Or get
or we're in
ready.
the middle of one,
Yeah.
or one's right around the corner.
Right.
So
Get ready.
it's something we just have to be prepared for
Yeah.
and deal with the best we can. And like Pastor Jim said, with God's help,
Yeah.
we can do all things.
Yes.
Well, listen, the title of the sermon was Surprised by Hope. And what all this tells us is we do have hope.
Yeah.
We have hard times, we have challenges. We're not built, as Pastor said, to face it alone. Thankfully, God has given us family, friends, loved ones, our church family to help us through it. And ultimately, we have Jesus himself who is
Yeah.
helping us through all of our challenges.
Yeah.
So we thank you for joining us this
Yeah.
week. We look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. And above all, keep that hope
Yeah.
alive and help those who need it. Be the blessing that you were created to be.
Yeah.
God bless.
God bless.